let's get into this. Let's get into these the ratings for NXT. We don't have any ratings to talk about for TNA because they're on a crappy channel, and Access just can't get themselves into the top 150. So we have not had any ratings information, honestly, since Thanksgiving, and that was like 18,000 at midnight. So, um, but let's get into the the NXT ratings, because this became a little bit of a story in TNA world, because last week there was a dip in the NXT ratings. They were a bit lower than normal, and definitely lower than the week before, and people took to Twitter to blame TNA for that, despite the fact that TNA wasn't announced. Like, Moose came in as a surprise, so Moose being on there is not going to affect ratings one bit, right? Because he wasn't advertised. So he was an unadvertised addition to the show. Same with the Hardys. They were featured in a video segment in response to someone calling them out. So they were not advertised for the show either. But this week, they were advertised for the show. And so this week, you have to give them credit, good or bad. Good or bad, give them credit for the ratings this week, since TNA was heavily featured on the show. NXT was a heavy TNA show this week, with 2 matches, significant matches on the show based around TNA storylines, right? So NXT on February 25th got a big boost, particularly in 1834, with a show where the Hardys were the main outside attraction. The show did 799,000 viewers with a 0.19, 254,000 viewers in the 18 to 49 demo, and a 0.13 in the 18 to 34. 2 major segments involved TNA wrestlers, with the Moose versus Lexis King X Division title match doing 817,000 viewers, and the Hardys versus Miles Bourne and Tavion Heights doing 867,000 viewers. The main event with Ricky Saints and Javon Evans versus Ethan Page and Wes Lee did 755,000 viewers. So without TNA, look what the main event did, 755. Without TNA, that's a significantly lower number, right? Significantly lower number. So for all the talk that TNA is a negative for NXT's numbers, all you have to do is dig into what the numbers actually are. Get into the math. And stop being a dum-dum, okay? TNA is not having a negative impact on NXT, okay? And this story, right? This, not even a controversy, but this angle that people are taking is coming from hardcore AEW fans. And I don't know why. It's just weird, right? They only want to talk about WWE's ratings when they're bad. And I'm not going to bring up AEW Dynamite's ratings this week, or Collision's ratings from over the weekend, and compare them to NXT's ratings, because they're significantly lower, and that would just come across as being an asshole, right? But NXT is much higher rated show by virtue of the fact that they're on broadcast television. It is a much higher rated show than anything AEW is putting out right now, right? So I don't know why AEW fans feel the need to go on to Twitter and say that TNA is bad for NXT when the math suggests otherwise, when the evidence suggests otherwise, okay? So TNA has been a boost for NXT. So now that gets back to the question, what is WWE getting out of this partnership? Here you go. Here you go. They get to send their talent to TNA to get more reps and to hopefully unlock something in them that will get them over in the future, right? And they're sending their young talent, their green talent, and now they're sending their bigger stars, right? The narrative has been they're only sending crappy stars like Cora Jade. They're sending lower level green talent like Carmen Petrovich and Sol Ruka, who actually Sol Ruka is awesome. They could send her every week. They should send her for a year. Like, yeah, she's fantastic, right? I think that she's going to be a WrestleMania main eventer one day, 100%. But that's been the knock on this whole partnership, and that was what it was last summer and fall, right? But now that they got everything on paper, the dynamic has shifted. And now NXT, not the main roster, NXT is sending their bigger stars to TNA, right? We have had Fraxium on several times. I get the feeling Fraxium is going to be the tag team champion soon. That is my read on the situation, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But we've had Fraxium on several episodes. They were at Genesis, and then they've wrestled 2 matches on television. They wrestled the Rascals defending the NXT titles. They wrestled the Nemeth brothers defending the NXT titles. They were successful in both, and which tells me that I think that they're going to be defeating the Hardy Boys coming up at Roadblock, and then we're going to get Fraxium on TNA television every week. And I don't think that Fraxium is going to take the belts back to WWE and not drop them to TNA talents on TNA shows. I don't think that's going to happen. Okay. I think they're going to drop them back to somebody on WWE or on TNA television. Probably the Rascals or somebody like that. Okay. So we've been getting, TNA has been getting Fraxium, right? And then last week, TNA started getting Obafemi, the World Heavyweight Champion. And it doesn't get any bigger than that. Okay. That's the biggest star on that television show. And he's coming over to TNA. And what is he doing? He's getting reps. He's getting to work. I saw him with Eddie Edwards on Impact this week. I was like, I need to see that. I need to see Obafemi do 12 minutes with Eddie, right? Work 12 minutes with Eddie, okay? And then Obafemi's selling for Moose, which he sells for nobody. He sold for Moose, right? Now they're going to go to Roadblock. Is Moose beating Oba? No. Obafemi is going to be their world champion one day. Not the NXT champion. He's going to be the world heavyweight champion one day. That's the guy for that company. And Moose being on NXT, Moose being on WWE television, if you judge off his social media, that's like a lifelong dream for him. So he's finally getting to live that out. And he's getting to do a big match. And he's getting more over on NXT. Okay. And then he's bringing that back to TNA. Okay. He's growing his brand. He's bringing that back to TNA. And the guy has got tons of aura, tons of charisma. He had a great match with Lexis King. Of all fucking people, Moose had a great match with Lexis King. If that doesn't tell you that Moose is good, I don't know what does. Moose got a lot of detractors, and none of it involves his in-ring ability. They're holding his past against him, and they're fooling themselves into thinking that because of his past, he's a bad wrestler, which that's not the case. He's a great wrestler. So great. He had a good match with Lexis King, right? Dave and Brian praised the shit out of the match. I meant to clip it for the show, but he praised the shit out of the match. So and now Moose getting W's on NXT. He's going to go to Roadblock. He's going to lose to Obafemi. Let's just be honest. Like, we know that, right? But he's going to bring that back to TNA. And now what is TNA getting out of it? Breaking records for attendance. That's what TNA is getting out of it. Breaking TNA attendance records, right? Box office. That's all they've ever wanted. They want their stars to get featured on WWE television and then bring that star power back to their events to sell more tickets, to sell more merchandise. It's not leading to ratings because Access TV can't get ratings. They are such a significantly smaller channel than they were 5 years ago. It's ridiculous. They are not in any homes, okay? They're never going to be back. If they get back into the top 150, it's a rare occasion because there was just nothing else on television. That is it. Okay. So sorry, I went on a tangent there, but yeah, we got NXT Roadblock coming up in a couple of weeks. So Josh, something tells me you aren't a fan of Lexis King. Let me be very clear about my thoughts on Lexis King. Okay. Lexis King, Brian Pillman Jr. fucking sucks. I thought he sucked in AEW. And living off of his dad's name. And I don't want to go too much into that relationship. Like his dad died when he was very young, right? And I was a big fan of his father. And I was a kid when he died. I cried when Brian Pillman died because I was a fan of Brian Pillman, the WCW white meat babyface Brian Pillman coming out and the cheetah briefs and he was a tag team with the Z-Man Brian or Tom Zink. So I was an old school fan of Brian Pillman. So I was really sad when he died. But he's been given a lot of chances based off of his name. And I just don't think he's improved since he's been around. So MLW brought him in like back in 2017. So the guy's been working regularly on television for 8 years, and I just have not seen the improvement, right? He's just been given chance after chance after chance, and he's just not that good. And some people just don't have it. And I think he's just one of those people that just doesn't have it.